The space station called Haven's Rest buzzed with noise and activity. Aliens from dozens of different worlds sat at tables, drinking strange liquids and talking in languages that sounded like music, clicks, or growls. The air smelled like metal and exotic spices. Lights flickered in colors that human eyes could barely see. Maya Torres sat alone at the curved metal bar. She was 28 years old with short brown hair and calm green eyes. Her clothes were simple and practical: dark pants, a plain shirt, and sturdy boots. She looked like any other human traveler, except for the way she held herself. There was something in her posture that spoke of training and experience. She sipped her drink slowly while reading information on her small electronic tablet. The mission details were simple enough. She and her partner needed to get to Kepler mining station. It was far away in a dangerous part of space where pirates liked to attack ships. Most crews would not go there unless they were paid very well. "Look at that," said a loud voice across the room. "Another human thinks she can be a mercenary." Maya looked up from her tablet. The voice belonged to Captain Zektar, a tall alien with blue skin and 4 arms. His species was called Krillian, and they were known for being good fighters. The captain was talking to his crew, but he spoke loudly enough for everyone to hear. "She has no weapons," continued the captain. "No plasma rifle, no energy sword, not even a simple gun. How does she think she will survive when trouble comes?" A huge reptile-like alien nodded his scaled head. This was Voss, a Saurian warrior who stood 7 feet tall. His skin looked like gray stone and his claws could cut through metal. "Humans are weak," he said in a voice that sounded like rocks grinding together. "They need their machines to do everything. Take away their technology and they become helpless like babies." Maya felt her jaw tighten, but she did not look at them. She had heard this kind of talk many times before. Humans were new to space travel compared to most alien races. Many aliens thought humans were soft and weak because they did not have natural weapons like claws or armor like scales. Her friend Alex Murphy slid onto the seat next to her. He was tall and thin, with messy hair and glasses that he kept pushing up his nose. Alex was a scientist, not a fighter, but he was Maya's partner and trusted friend. "Maybe we should find a different crew," Alex whispered. "These aliens do not seem to like humans very much." "We need to get to Kepler Station," Maya replied quietly. "They are the only ship going there in the next week. The mining contracts will be signed by then if we wait for another ship." Captain Zektar walked over to their table with his crew following behind him. Besides Voss the Saurian, there was also Commander Thane. Thane was an insect-like alien with compound eyes that sparkled like jewels and mandibles that clicked when he talked. All 3 aliens were much larger than Maya and Alex. "Human female," said Captain Zektar, looking down at Maya with all 4 of his arms crossed. "I hear you want passage to Kepler Station. My ship, the Stellar Wind, leaves tomorrow morning. But I must ask you something important. Where are your weapons?" Maya slowly turned to face the captain. Her expression was calm and controlled. "I have everything I need." The captain's large eyes narrowed. "Show me your weapons. Show me what you will use to protect yourself and my crew. Kepler Station is in dangerous space. There are pirates, criminals, and rival mining crews who will try to steal from us or worse. You need real weapons, not human toys." Maya stood up from her chair. Even standing, she was much shorter than all 3 aliens. She was only 5 feet and 6 inches tall, while the shortest alien was over 6 feet. She looked small and fragile compared to their natural armor, claws, and muscles. Maya raised her hands and made them into fists. Her knuckles were scarred from years of training and fighting. "These will do," she said in a clear, steady voice. For a moment, the cantina became completely quiet. Every alien in the room stopped talking and turned to look at the small human woman who claimed her bare hands were weapons. Then the laughter started. It began with Voss, who slapped his knee with a clawed hand and made a sound like rocks falling down a mountain. "Fists!" he roared. "She thinks her tiny mammal hands are weapons." Commander Thane's mandibles clicked rapidly, which was how his species showed amusement. "Against energy weapons and armored opponents? This human must want to die." Captain Zektar shook his head, but he was smiling. "Perhaps we should charge her extra money for the rescue mission we will have to do when she gets in trouble." Other aliens in the cantina joined in the laughter. Some pointed at Maya with claws, tentacles, or whatever appendages they had. Others made comments in their own languages that sounded mocking even if Maya could not understand the words. Alex looked embarrassed and worried. He tugged on Maya's sleeve. "Maybe you should carry a gun just to be safe," he whispered. Maya did not seem bothered by all the laughter and pointing. Her expression remained calm and confident. The passage to Kepler station cost 300 credits for each person, she said to Captain Zektar. Alex and I accept your offer. The captain studied her for a long moment. His 4 eyes looked her up and down, taking in her small size and apparent lack of weapons. Very well, he finally said. But understand this, human. When we run into trouble, and we will run into trouble, you are on your own. Do not expect my crew to risk their lives saving someone who is too stupid to arm herself properly. I understand completely, Maya replied. She used her tablet to transfer 600 credits to the captain's account. The money appeared instantly, which seemed to surprise the aliens slightly. At least the humans had reliable banking systems. As the alien crew walked away, still chuckling and making jokes, Alex leaned closer to his friend. Are you really sure about this? These are dangerous aliens we're traveling with, and we're going to an even more dangerous place. Maybe you should at least carry a small weapon, something you can hide. Maya finished her drink and stood up from the bar. She looked completely relaxed, as if she had not just been mocked by a room full of armed aliens. Trust me, Alex, she said quietly. When the time comes, I will be ready. She walked toward the exit, leaving Alex to hurry after her. Behind them, the aliens continued to laugh and tell each other stories about the foolish human who thought her fists were weapons. None of them had bothered to ask about Maya's background or training. None of them had wondered why a human would travel to dangerous space without visible weapons. They saw what they expected to see, a weak, defenseless creature who relied too much on technology. Maya had served 3 tours of duty with the Terran Marine Corps. She had fought in boarding actions, urban combat, and planetary assaults. She had earned medals for bravery and commendations for tactical excellence. But more importantly, she had learned that the deadliest weapon was not always the most obvious one. Sometimes it was the one that nobody expected. The Stellar Wind was not a pretty ship. It was built for carrying cargo, not for comfort. The metal walls were gray and plain, with pipes and cables running along the ceiling. The air recycling system made a constant humming noise, and everything smelled like oil and ozone. Maya and Alex shared a small room on the lower deck. It had 2 narrow beds, a tiny table, and a porthole that showed the black of space. The alien crew had much nicer rooms on the upper levels, with more space and better air circulation. The ship's common area was where the crew spent most of their time when they were not working. It was a large room filled with chairs and tables of different sizes to fit different alien bodies. The walls were covered with weapon racks, star charts, and trophy heads from various dangerous creatures. Maya quickly learned the daily routine aboard the ship. The aliens would eat breakfast together, sharing stories and planning for potential fights. Then they would work on maintaining their weapons, cleaning their armor, and practicing combat techniques. In the evenings, they would gather again to drink strong alien liquor and boast about past victories. On the second day of their 5-day journey, Maya started her own routine. She would wake up early and find an empty cargo bay where she could exercise. She did push-ups until her arms burned, sit-ups until her stomach ached, and stretching exercises that kept her muscles flexible. But what really caught attention was her fighting practice. Maya would spend an hour each morning practicing combat moves against imaginary enemies. Her fists moved in precise patterns, throwing punches and elbow strikes at targets only she could see. Her feet kicked and swept in complex combinations. Her whole body flowed like water, moving from one fighting stance to another. Voss discovered her during one of these sessions. The big Saurian warrior stood in the doorway, watching as Maya practiced a series of devastating elbow strikes. Her movements were fast and controlled, each strike perfectly aimed at vital points on an invisible opponent. "What is this strange ritual, human?" Voss asked. His forked tongue flickered out to taste the air, which was how his species gathered information about their surroundings. Maya did not stop her practice. "Physical training," she answered while continuing to throw precise punches. "I am keeping my body strong and flexible. I am also practicing movements so my muscles remember them." Muscle memory? The concept seemed foreign to Voss. Maya paused in her routine and faced the large alien. "When you practice the same movement thousands of times, your body learns to do it without thinking. In real combat, there is no time to think about what to do. Your body must react faster than your mind." Voss made a snorting sound that showed disagreement. "Against energy weapons, all this preparation means nothing. One plasma bolt kills you instantly, no matter how fast you move." "Maybe," Maya agreed. But not all fights happen at long distance. Sometimes enemies get close. Sometimes weapons fail or run out of power. Sometimes you have to fight in places where energy weapons are too dangerous to use. The Saurian's scaled forehead wrinkled as he thought about this. You speak like someone who has been in real wars. 3 tours with the Terran Marines, Maya said simply. Urban fighting, shipboarding actions, attacks on enemy planets. I have seen plenty of real combat. This information made Voss pause. The Terran Marines had developed a reputation among alien species that had encountered them. They were known for being tough, smart, and very hard to kill. But still, Voss shook his massive head. Without proper weapons, experience does not matter much. That afternoon, Alex joined Maya in the cargo bay for training. Unlike his friend, Alex had never been a soldier, but Maya had insisted he learn basic self-defense during their 2 years working together as partners. Show me that wrist escape again, Alex requested. Earlier, Maya had demonstrated how to break free when someone grabbed your arm, and the technique had left red marks on Alex's wrists. As Maya guided Alex through the movement, Commander Thane watched from above. The insectoid had climbed into the ventilation system, where his compound eyes could observe everything without being seen. His species was naturally curious about other forms of life, and humans were still relatively new to the galaxy. Thane watched Maya's hands as she showed Alex the proper way to twist free from a grip. Human fingers were remarkably flexible compared to claws or mandibles. Their bone structure allowed for leverage techniques that would be impossible for most other species. Still, technique without proper weapons seemed pointless to the experienced warrior. On the 3rd day, Captain Zektar called Maya to the bridge. The bridge was the control center of the ship, filled with screens showing navigation data, engine status, and sensor readings. Through the main view screen, stars stretched into lines as the ship traveled faster than light. Human Torres, the captain said, gesturing to a tactical display with 2 of his 4 arms. We are getting close to the outer edge of Kepler system. My sensors detect unusual activity ahead. 3 ships of unknown design are moving to intercept the shipping lanes. Maya studied the glowing symbols on the screen. Each symbol represented a ship, and their position showed they were setting up some kind of trap. Pirates? Most likely, Captain Zektar confirmed. They are sending standard demands for cargo inspection and passenger lists. This is normal pirate behavior. His forearms moved across different control panels as he analyzed the threat. We could change course and go around them, but that would add 6 days to our trip. What do you normally do in this situation? Fight or negotiate? My crew has good weapons and lots of experience, but with civilians on board. He gestured toward Maya and Alex with one arm while continuing to work controls with the others. The risk goes up considerably. Alex and I will not be a burden to you, Maya assured him. Voss, who was monitoring the communications station, looked up from his instruments. Captain, the lead ship is calling us directly. They want permission to board our ship for inspection. Typical pirate behavior. Commander Thane clicked from his position at the weapons console. They will take whatever they want and throw anyone who resists out into space. Captain Zektar made his decision quickly. All crew to battle stations. Prepare weapons in defensive positions. We will fight. The alien warriors immediately rushed to their weapon lockers. They pulled out plasma rifles that hummed with deadly energy, put on armor that could stop most projectiles, and checked their personal shields. Each alien was armed with enough firepower to level a small building. Maya remained calm while Alex grew visibly nervous. Maya, maybe we should hide in our quarters until this is over, Alex suggested. No, Maya replied firmly. If they board this ship, nowhere will be safe. We stay with the crew. Captain Zektar overheard her response. Human, you will only get in the way. You have no weapon, no armor, no military training that matters here. I have training, Maya corrected gently, and I have everything else I need. The captain looked at her with all 4 of his eyes. Here was this small human female, facing the prospect of armed combat against professional pirates, and she seemed completely unafraid. Either she was very brave or very stupid. Given what he had seen of humans so far, he suspected it was the latter. Stay behind us, he ordered. Try not to get killed. Through the ship's communication system, they could hear the pirate leader making his demands. His voice was rough and threatening, speaking in broken galactic standards so that all species could understand. Attention, cargo ship. You will prepare for boarding. We will inspect your cargo and passengers. If you resist, we will kill everyone and take what we want anyway. If you cooperate, we will only take what we need and leave you alive. Captain Zektar's response was exactly what Maya expected from a proud warrior species. Unknown ships, you are violating galactic commerce laws. Leave immediately or face the consequences. The pirate's laughter came through the speakers like grinding metal. We will see who faces consequences, cargo captain. Alarms began sounding throughout the ship as the pirates moved to attack positions. On the tactical display, Maya could see the 3 enemy ships spreading out to surround the stellar wind. It was a well-planned ambush by experienced criminals. Here they come, Voss announced, checking the charge level on his plasma rifle. Maya watched the alien crew take their defensive positions. Their weapons were impressive, their tactics were sound, and they had the advantage of fighting from prepared positions inside their own ship. But something about their formation bothered her. "Captain," she said quietly, "you are leaving the lower corridor undefended." "That is intentional," Commander Thane replied while adjusting his weapon's targeting system. "We want to funnel them into a kill zone where our overlapping fire can cut them down efficiently. What if they do not take the bait? What if they split their forces and attack from multiple directions?" "Impossible," Voss declared confidently. "Pirates are undisciplined criminals. They will rush straight for the bridge to take control as quickly as possible." Maya hoped they were right, but her military experience suggested otherwise. Professional pirates who could coordinate a 3-ship ambush were probably smart enough to use more complex tactics. She was about to find out if her concerns were justified. The pirate ships moved around the stellar wind like hungry wolves circling their prey. Their leader, a scarred alien called Brutax, sent his final message to Captain Zektar's bridge. "Last chance, cargo captain. Open your docking bays and prepare to be boarded. We will make this quick and painless if you cooperate. Resist and we will make it slow and very painful." Captain Zektar's forearms worked frantically at the control panels as he prepared his ship's defenses. "All pirates can go straight to the nearest black hole," he transmitted back. "Your choice," Brutax replied with obvious satisfaction. The attack began immediately. Small boarding pods launched from all 3 pirate ships at the same time. The pods were black metal cylinders with powerful magnetic clamps and plasma cutting tools. They struck the stellar wind's hull with loud crashes that echoed through the corridors. "Multiple boarding attempts," Voss reported from his sensor station. "Main cargo bay, rear maintenance shaft, and auxiliary airlock. They are coming from 3 directions." Maya felt her stomach tighten. This was exactly what she had been afraid of. These were not simple criminals rushing in without a plan. They were professionals using coordinated tactics to split the defending force. "Standard defensive positions," Captain Zektar ordered his crew. "Protect the bridge and engineering section. Make them come to us through the kill zones we prepared." The alien warriors took cover behind metal barriers they had set up in the main corridor. Their plasma rifles hummed with deadly energy as they waited for the pirates to breach the airlock seals. Maya watched the defensive formation and realized the problem immediately. The crew was focused on the main cargo bay, where they expected the primary attack to come from. But the other boarding sites were being treated as minor threats. "Captain, what about the maintenance shaft boarding?" she asked. "Commander Thane will handle that," the captain replied without taking his eyes off the main corridor. "One insectoid warrior with a plasma rifle can hold a narrow shaft against multiple enemies. And the auxiliary airlock? Secondary concern. Anyone coming through there will have to cross 2 levels of open space to reach anything important. We will pick them off easily." Maya was not convinced. In her experience, the most dangerous attacks often came from directions that seemed least threatening. But before she could voice more concerns, the first boarding party broke through. The main cargo bay airlock exploded inward with a shower of sparks and twisted metal. 6 heavily armed pirates charged through the breach, exactly as the alien crew had predicted. Captain Zektar's defensive plan worked perfectly. Concentrated plasma fire from multiple positions caught the pirates in a deadly crossfire. "First wave eliminated," Voss reported with satisfaction. "Told you they were just undisciplined criminals." But Maya's military instincts were screaming that something was wrong. The attack on the cargo bay had been too obvious, too direct. Professional pirates would not sacrifice 6 fighters just to test the defenders' positions. Then she realized the truth. The cargo bay attack was a distraction. While the alien crew focused on the dramatic frontal assault, the real threat was moving through the ship's lower levels. Maya could hear faint sounds of movement coming from below, sounds that the aliens missed because of the noise from the main battle. "Alex, stay here with the crew," she said quietly to her friend. "Where are you going?" Alex asked nervously. "To check something." Before anyone could stop her, Maya slipped away from the defensive position and headed for the lower levels. Behind her, she could hear Voss making a disgusted comment about cowardly humans running from battle. Maya moved through the ship's maintenance corridors with practiced stealth. Her marine training had included extensive practice in shipboard combat, including movement through cramped spaces and ventilation systems. She knew how to move quietly, how to use shadows for concealment, and how to navigate by sound when visibility was poor. She found them 3 levels below the bridge. 5 Corvan pirates were working their way upward through the maintenance areas with military precision. These were not the same species as the ones who had attacked the cargo bay. They were smaller, more agile, and clearly more professional. The lead pirate carried a sophisticated scanning device that could detect the heat signatures and electrical fields of living beings. Maya realized they would soon know exactly where Captain Zektar's crew was positioned, allowing them to coordinate a devastating ambush from behind. One of the pirates separated from the group and moved toward a junction that would give him a clear shot at the alien crew's rear position. Maya knew she had to act immediately. She dropped silently from a ventilation grate directly behind the lone pirate. Her landing was perfectly quiet, a skill learned through countless training exercises in real combat situations. The Corvan never sensed her presence. Maya's attack was swift and precise. One hand clamped over the pirate's mouth to prevent any sound, while the other delivered a focused strike to a nerve cluster at the base of his skull. The alien went limp immediately, unconscious but not permanently injured. Maya carefully lowered the unconscious pirate to the deck and hid his body behind a supply container. She took his sidearm not because she planned to use it, but because every weapon in enemy hands was a threat. The sound of the falling weapon alerted the other pirates. "Jaktor, report your position," the squad leader hissed in the Corvan language. When no response came, 2 pirates moved to investigate. Maya had already concealed herself in an alcove near the junction, using the shadows and her dark clothing to become nearly invisible. The first pirate approached cautiously, energy rifle held at the ready. He was well trained and alert, but he was looking for threats at his own eye level. Maya attacked from below, grabbing the barrel of his rifle and using his own forward momentum to drive his head into the metal bulkhead. The impact rendered him unconscious instantly. The second pirate, seeing his companion fall, raised his weapon to fire at Maya, but she was already in motion, ducking under his line of sight and closing the distance before he could adjust his aim. A precise uppercut to his solar plexus lifted him off his feet, and he crashed into the wall before sliding to the deck unconscious. 3 pirates down, 2 remaining. The sounds of the brief struggle had alerted the squad leader and his remaining companion. Unlike their fallen comrades, these 2 were veterans who would not be caught off guard easily. Maya quickly assessed her tactical situation. The corridor was narrow, which limited the pirate's ability to spread out and surround her, but it also restricted her own movement options. The remaining pirates had military-grade energy weapons that could punch holes through the ship's bulkheads. At close range, even a glancing hit would be fatal. She needed to neutralize their advantage in firepower by closing to hand combat range before they could establish good firing positions. Maya picked up the plasma pistol from one of the unconscious pirates. She had no intention of engaging in a firefight, but the weapon would serve as a crucial distraction. The squad leader appeared at the far end of the corridor, rifle raised and ready. Maya fired once, deliberately missing but forcing him to take cover behind a support beam. Then she immediately abandoned the pistol and charged straight at his position. The Corvan was expecting a prolonged exchange of energy weapon fire. He was completely unprepared for a direct physical assault. Maya vaulted over a low barrier and landed within arm's reach of the startled pirate. Before he could react, what followed was a demonstration of human combat techniques that would have impressed her former Marine instructors. Maya trapped the pirate's rifle against his body with her left arm, while delivering a series of rapid strikes with her right hand and knees. Elbow to the solar plexus to disrupt his breathing. Knee to the midsection to double him over. Palm strike to the chin to snap his head back and scramble his nervous system. The Corvan was larger and stronger than Maya, but his species had evolved for different types of combat. Their natural weapons were claws and teeth designed for hunting prey. not grappling with a trained opponent who knew exactly which nerve clusters and pressure points would disable an enemy quickly. Within seconds, the fourth pirate was unconscious and crumpling to the deck. The squad leader, witnessing the impossible defeat of his entire team, made a critical tactical error. Instead of maintaining distance and using his weapon's advantages, he abandoned his rifle and drew a curved blade, apparently intending to engage the human in what he considered honorable combat. Maya almost allowed herself a small smile. Almost. The Corvin's blade work was actually quite impressive. He demonstrated techniques that had clearly been passed down through generations of warriors. His species had a proud fighting tradition, and this individual was obviously an expert with edged weapons. But Maya had been trained to fight against every weapon system known to the galaxy. Blade defense was fundamental to Marine close combat doctrine, because energy weapons were sometimes unavailable or inappropriate for certain mission types. She avoided his first swing by millimeters, feeling the blade whistle past her face close enough to cut a few strands of hair. His follow-up thrust was deflected by a precise hand block that sent the weapon wide of its target. Maya stepped inside his guard and unleashed what her instructors had called the chain, a sequence of strikes designed to overwhelm an opponent's ability to defend, or Kumaya moved through the ship's corridors like a ghost, carrying 2 captured energy rifles and moving toward the sounds of battle. The main fight was still raging in the cargo bay area, where Captain Zektar's crew was holding their defensive positions against the second wave of pirates. She could hear the distinctive whine of plasma weapons firing, the crash of energy bolts hitting metal barriers, and the shouted orders of both sides trying to gain tactical advantage. The air smelled of ozone and burned metal. As Maya approached the battle zone, she realized that her earlier concerns had been correct. The pirates were not simple criminals. They were using professional military tactics, including suppressing fire to pin down the defenders while other teams moved to flanking positions. Through a ventilation grate, Maya could see the situation clearly. Captain Zektar and his crew were trapped behind their barriers by accurate enemy fire. The pirates had established overlapping fields of fire that made any movement extremely dangerous for the aliens. But the pirates had made one crucial mistake. They were so focused on the frontal battle that they had not secured their rear approach. Maya could position herself behind their formation and attack from a direction they would never expect. She moved to a cargo storage area that connected to the main bay through a secondary entrance. From there, she would have clear shots at the pirates' backs while remaining hidden behind supply containers. Maya checked the captured weapons quickly. Both rifles were fully charged and set to maximum power. She adjusted the firing mode to single shots rather than automatic fire. Accuracy would be more important than volume of fire in this situation. Taking a deep breath to calm her nerves, Maya positioned herself and began her attack. Her first shot took down a pirate who was operating a portable shield generator. Without the shield, 2 of his companions were suddenly exposed to return fire from Captain Zektar's position. They scrambled for new cover, breaking up their coordinated formation. Maya's second shot disabled another pirate who was directing the assault. Leadership was always a priority target in any engagement. Remove the commanders, and even disciplined troops became confused and ineffective. The remaining pirates realized they were being attacked from behind, but they could not immediately locate the source of the new threat. Maya was firing from concealment, changing position after each shot and using her knowledge of the ship's layout to stay hidden. "We are being flanked," one pirate shouted in Galactic Standard. "Someone is behind us." "Impossible," their leader replied. "All access points are covered." But Maya was not using the access points they expected. She was moving through maintenance areas, supply storage spaces, and even ventilation shafts to attack from unexpected angles. This was exactly the kind of 3-dimensional thinking that human military doctrine emphasized. Captain Zektar, seeing the sudden confusion among his enemies, immediately pressed his advantage. "Forward assault," he ordered his crew. "Drive them back to their boarding pods." The alien warriors advanced with practiced coordination, their plasma weapons laying down devastating fire. Caught between 2 forces and unable to establish new defensive positions, the pirates began to retreat. But Maya was not finished. As the pirates fell back toward their escape route, she moved to cut off their withdrawal. Using her knowledge of the ship's layout, she reached the boarding pod docking point before the retreating enemies arrived. 3 pirates reached the airlock area, expecting to find their escape route clear. Instead, they found a small human woman waiting for them with captured weapons and a very determined expression. "Surrender," Maya called out in Galactic Standard. "Drop your weapons and you will not be harmed." The pirates looked at each other in disbelief. One human against 3 armed professionals? It seemed like a joke. The largest pirate, a Brutaxi warrior with thick armor and natural weapons, laughed harshly. "Little human thinks she can stop us. We will tear you apart and use your bones for trophy decorations." Maya sighed quietly. She had hoped they would be smart enough to surrender. The Brutaxi charged first, relying on his species' natural aggression and physical power. His claws were extended and his jaw was open, showing rows of sharp teeth designed for ripping flesh from prey. Maya sidestepped his charge and used his own momentum against him. As he passed by her position, she drove her elbow into a nerve cluster just behind his ear. The massive alien crashed into the bulkhead and slumped to the deck, unconscious but still breathing. The second pirate, a Corvan like the ones she had fought earlier, raised his energy rifle and fired. But Maya was already moving, rolling behind a piece of machinery as the energy bolt scorched the metal where she had been standing. She came up from her roll in a new position, inside the Corvan's effective firing range. Her fist connected with his solar plexus, doubling him over, and her knee met his descending face with bone-crushing force. He joined his companion on the deck. The third pirate, seeing 2 of his colleagues defeated in seconds, dropped his weapon and raised his hands in surrender. "Smart choice," Maya said, keeping her captured rifle trained on him, while she secured his fallen companions with their own restraints. By the time Captain Zektar and his crew reached the boarding area, Maya had 3 unconscious pirates properly secured and their weapons safely stored. The captain stared at the scene with all 4 of his eyes wide with disbelief. "How?" was all he managed to say. "Training and experience," Maya replied simply, "plus a little help from overconfident enemies." Commander Thane, who had successfully defended the maintenance shaft against his own group of boarders, clicked his mandibles in what Maya now recognized as his species' expression of respect. "I have never seen anything like this. 1 human, no armor, no advanced weapons, defeating multiple armed professionals." Voss examined the unconscious pirates with scientific curiosity. "They are alive. All of them. You could have killed them easily, but you chose not to." "Killing should be a last resort," Maya explained. "These pirates were criminals, but they were also someone's family members, someone's friends. If they can be stopped without killing them, that is always the better choice." Alex, who had finally been allowed to leave the defensive position, arrived at the boarding area just in time to see Maya securing the last of the prisoners. "Are you hurt?" was his first question. "Not even a scratch," Maya assured him. Captain Zektar was examining the captured weapons and communication equipment that Maya had gathered from both the main battle and her solo engagement in the lower levels. "This is military-grade equipment," he observed. "These were not random pirates. Someone with serious resources sent them after us. Corporate warfare," Alex suggested, studying the pirates' identification documents. "Look at these employment records. They all work for Nexus Mining Consortium. This was probably an attempt to eliminate competition for the Kepler mining contracts." Maya nodded. "That explains their professional tactics and coordination. Corporate security forces are usually well-trained and well-equipped. But they were not trained to fight humans," Voss observed. His tone had changed completely from the mocking attitude he had shown earlier. "They prepared for conventional combat against species they understood. You fought in ways they could not predict or counter. Every species has natural advantages," Maya explained. "Voss, your claws and armored scales make you nearly immune to most hand-to-hand attacks. Commander Thane's speed and multiple limbs allow him to use weapons that would be impossible for other species. Captain Zektar's forearms give him coordination that no 2-armed species can match." She held up her hands again, the same gesture that had provoked laughter just days earlier. "Humans have these. No claws, no natural armor, no overwhelming strength. But we learned to fight without natural weapons, so we developed techniques that work against any opponent regardless of their advantages." The captain's expression showed deep thought. "You speak of combat as if it were a science with principles that can be learned and applied." "It is a science," Maya confirmed. "Biology, physics, psychology, engineering. Human military doctrine combines all of these because we had to. We are not the strongest or fastest or most naturally dangerous species. But we study our enemies, we adapt our tactics, and we never stop learning new ways to survive." Commander Thane's compound eyes reflected what looked like admiration. This explains much about human expansion through the galaxy. In 60 years, your species has spread to more worlds than most species achieve in centuries. We explore, we adapt, we overcome obstacles, Maya agreed. It is what we do. Captain Zektar was silent for several minutes, clearly processing everything he had witnessed. Finally, he spoke in a voice filled with respect. Human Torres, my crew and I owe you more than an apology. We judged you by our own limitations instead of trying to understand your capabilities. You saved my ship and probably all our lives. No apology needed, Maya replied. But I would like to ask one favor. Anything. When you tell this story to other crews, remember that what you saw today was not unique to me. Every human has the same potential. We do not need to be the biggest or strongest or most heavily armed. We just need to be human. 4 hours later, system patrol ships arrived to collect the CI. The next morning brought a completely different atmosphere aboard the Stellar Wind. When Maya entered the common area for breakfast, the conversation stopped. Every alien crew member looked at her with expressions that ranged from respect to curiosity to something that might have been awe. Captain Zektar stood up when she approached the food dispensers. Human Torres, please sit at the head table with my senior officers. It would be an honor to have you join us for the morning meal. Maya accepted the invitation graciously. As she sat down with her simple rations, Voss leaned forward with obvious interest. I have been thinking about yesterday's events all night, the big Saurian said. I need to understand something. How did one human without weapons or armor defeat 8 armed professionals? Actually, it was 11, Commander Thane corrected. 5 in the lower corridors, 3 at the boarding pods, and 3 who surrendered rather than fight her. Alex, who had been unusually quiet since the battle, spoke up. I have worked with Maya for 2 years and I have never seen her use violence. She always finds peaceful solutions to problems. Yesterday was the first time I saw her fight. But you knew she could do this? Captain Zektar asked. I knew she was a former Marine, Alex replied. But I thought that just meant she knew how to use military equipment. I had no idea she could do what she did yesterday with just her hands. Maya finished chewing a bite of her breakfast before responding. What you saw yesterday was not magic or secret human abilities. It was training, experience, and the willingness to think differently about problems. Explain, Voss requested earnestly. Maya stood up and moved to an open area of the common room. Every species in the galaxy has natural weapons. Voss, show them your claws. The Saurian extended his hands, revealing curved claws that could slice through metal. These can cut through most armor and deliver poison that paralyzes my enemies. Commander Thane, show them your mandibles. The insectoid opened his mouth, revealing powerful crushing jaws that could bite through bone. These can exert pressure of over 2,000 pounds per square inch. Captain Zektar, demonstrate your coordination. The captain used all 4 of his arms to perform a complex series of movements, each arm working independently while maintaining perfect coordination. 4-armed species can use weapons combinations that are impossible for others. Maya held up her own hands, looking at them as if seeing them for the first time. Humans have these. No claws, no crushing power, no natural armor. But these hands can do something that claws and mandibles cannot. What? Several voices asked at once. They can become anything we need them to become. Maya demonstrated by forming her hands into different shapes. A hammer to strike. A blade to cut. A hook to pull. A grip to hold. Pliers to twist. The shape changes based on what the situation requires. She began moving through a series of combat techniques, each one showing how human hands could adapt to different tactical needs. Against an opponent with claws, we can trap and control their weapons. Against someone with reach advantage, we can close distance and use grappling. Against armored enemies, we can target joints and weak points. Commander Thane's compound eyes tracked every movement with scientific precision. You are describing adaptive combat methodology. Most species develop fighting techniques based on their natural weapons and physical advantages. Humans develop techniques that work regardless of the opponent's advantages. Exactly, Maya confirmed. We had to because we were not naturally the strongest or fastest or most dangerous species on our own planet. We survived by being smarter, more adaptable, and more persistent than our competitors. Voss was taking notes on a data pad, trying to record everything Maya was explaining. But how do you know which technique to use against which opponent? There must be thousands of possibilities. Training and experience, Maya replied. But more importantly, understanding that every advantage can become a disadvantage if you know how to exploit it. Give us an example, Captain Zektar requested. Maya gestured toward Voss. Your claws are incredibly dangerous weapons, but they also limit your hand mobility. You cannot make a proper fist or perform fine manipulation tasks while your claws are extended. A human fighting you would try to force close-range grappling where your claws become a liability instead of an asset. She turned to Commander Thane. Your exoskeleton provides excellent protection, but it also makes you vulnerable to impact damage that can crack or shatter the hard shell. A human would use techniques that transfer kinetic energy through the armor, rather than trying to penetrate it. Finally, she addressed the captain directly. Your forearm coordination is remarkable, but it requires intense concentration to maintain. Disrupting that concentration through unexpected attacks or environmental changes would force you to fight less efficiently. The alien crew members exchanged glances. What Maya was describing was not just combat technique, but a completely different way of thinking about conflict. This is why humans have been so successful in space, Alex observed. Finally understanding something that had puzzled him, other species try to impose their natural advantages on new environments. Humans adapt to whatever environment they find themselves in. Every human can do this? Voss asked. With proper training and experience, yes, Maya confirmed. The specific techniques vary, but the adaptive thinking is universal among our species. We are not naturally specialized for any one environment or type of challenge. Instead, we are specialized for learning and adaptation. Captain Zektar leaned back in his chair, processing this information. This explains much about human behavior that has confused other species. Your rapid territorial expansion, your tendency to succeed in environments that should be hostile to you, your ability to work effectively with species that are very different from yourselves. We explore because we can adapt to new places, Maya agreed. We cooperate because we can learn from other species. We survive because we never accept that any challenge is impossible to overcome. Commander Thane clicked his mandibles thoughtfully. Yesterday you could have killed all of those pirates easily. Why did you choose not to? Because killing them would not have solved the real problem, Maya explained. Dead pirates become martyrs. Live pirates become witnesses who can testify about corporate warfare and illegal activities. The information they provide will prevent future attacks more effectively than their deaths would have. You think strategically, not just tactically, the captain observed. All humans do. When we take the time to consider our options, short-term solutions often create long-term problems. We try to think about consequences beyond the immediate situation. Voss stood up and moved to the center of the room. Maya Torres, I formally request that you teach me human combat methods. I want to learn this adaptive thinking. Commander Thane joined him. I also request instruction. This knowledge could benefit my entire species. Captain Zektar nodded approvingly. The stellar wind would be honored to serve as a training ground for these techniques. Maya looked around the room at the alien faces watching her expectantly. Just 3 days ago, these same beings had been mocking her for claiming that her fists were adequate weapons. Now they were asking to learn from her. I will teach anyone who wants to learn, she said simply. But remember, the techniques are less important than the thinking behind them. What I really want to teach you is how to see every challenge as a problem that can be solved. The remaining 2 days of the journey to Kepler Station passed quickly. Maya held training sessions in the cargo bay, teaching basic human combat principles to anyone who was interested. More importantly, she explained the philosophy behind the techniques. Never accept that your natural disadvantages are permanent, she told her students. Every weakness can become a strength if you approach it correctly. Every enemy advantage can be turned against them if you understand how it works. Word of the incident spread quickly through the communication networks that connected different space stations and trading posts. The story of the human woman who had defeated 11 armed pirates with nothing but her hands became legend among the mercenary crews and independent traders. But those who heard the story, secondhand, missed its real significance. It was not about Maya Torres specifically, or even about human combat abilities in general. It was about the fundamental principle that had allowed humans to spread across the galaxy in just 60 years. They never accepted limitations as permanent conditions. Where other species saw impossible barriers, humans saw problems that could be solved with enough creativity, persistence, and willingness to try new approaches. As the stellar wind docked at Kepler Station, Maya gathered her few belongings and prepared to leave the ship. Captain Zektar met her at the airlock with his entire crew. "Human Torres," the captain said formally, "you will always be welcome aboard any ship I command. More than that, you have taught us that strength comes in forms we never expected. I will make sure this lesson is shared with other crews." Maya shook hands with each crew member in the human gesture of friendship and respect. When she reached Voss, the big Saurian surprised her by attempting to bow in the human fashion. "Teacher," he said seriously, "I will practice what you have taught us. I will remember that adaptation is stronger than armor." "Remember also," Maya replied, "that the strongest weapon is the one that